I've always loved shooting with a 35mm and a 50mm prime, but getting in between the two gives me something special that I believe is my favorite, but also my most versatile focal length. It matches my work better than anything else I've ever tried, and thanks to this lens, I've been able to get back into using this focal length again. This is the TTArtisans 27mm f2.8. So I've been really loving using this lens, and I've been using it on my XT-10, and that's given me something like a 40mm-ish equivalent focal length. This 40mm focal length has, over the time I've been doing photography, been one of my favorites. One of my point-and-shoot film cameras uses a 38mm focal length. For a long time I mained a 16-35 and basically just shot it on the 35mm end. I currently use a 35mm Takumar that I really love. And I at one point also had a 40mm prime for Sony that I really loved, and I had that for a long time, and that's where I really kind of gained my love for the focal length. Now first of all, this specific lens is really great because it's cheaper than the Fuji version by quite a bit. But it's also more than good enough to get the job done, especially on my XT-10, which only has a small amount of megapixels in the sensor. I believe it's 12 or 16, but it's not enough to really need a huge amount of sharpness or anything crazy in terms of optical quality. And so you can kind of get by with some flaws. And by the time that I throw in a diffusion filter, which right now I like to use a 10% from Cinebloom, that's been more than enough to soften it up a bit. Because I got this XT-10 to use as a compact everyday carry-around setup, the small footprint of the lens allows this camera to be a compact everyday camera. If I had anything bigger, it would be a lot harder to keep this camera with me. Now coming back to the focal length of 40mm, I really love that focal length because I think it's perfect for most of my photography. I usually like to shoot anywhere from 35 to 60mm, and a lot of the lenses I use reflect that. And so for the longest time I've been shooting anywhere from something like 35 to 60mm, and 40mm just fits right in the middle of that and works perfectly for almost all of what I try to do. I still prefer 35mm for video shooting in a lot of scenarios, especially like my latest trip to Washington DC, where I'm kind of just walking around and shooting whatever I see that I think looks good. Those are the types of photos that work really well with 40mm for me instead of 35. And so while 35 has felt really perfect for a lot of my photography, I think 40mm is even more perfect, especially for an everyday carry camera that I always have with me. And this TTArtisans 27mm f2.8 has been really great because it's cheap, small, light, and it just gets the job done. If there were things I had to nitpick, if there was something I had to dislike, it would be the vignetting wide open, and most of the stuff I shoot in this lens is stopped down to something like f9 or f10 anyway. It's really not an issue at all, but if you are shooting wide open, it might be something to be aware of. This lens has been plenty sharp enough, especially for this lower res sensor, and by the time I put diffusion on it, it's about the perfect level of detail that I want to get from a scene. The autofocus has really only struggled in low light and with really far away small subjects in the frame, but again, that might be chalked up to the XT-10 that I'm using rather than the lens itself. Another little detail that I really love about this lens is the inclusion of an aperture ring on the lens. This is really important to me because I'm really used to working with my vintage lenses, and then going to something like my zoom lenses on my Sony camera and just not having an aperture ring is really rather annoying. And especially on a compact setup like this XT-10 where I can flip out the screen and shoot from the hip, being able to look straight down on the camera and see the aperture that I'm set to before I even turn on the camera or frame up my subject is really helpful. So if you're in the market for a compact walk-around setup for the Fuji system, this lens might be worth checking out because of the really good focal length for everyday use. That's all I have to say about this lens. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.